Another contentious Clark County School District Board of Trustees meeting tonight. This as a large crowd of teachers showed up outside the building to protest while the protest continued inside. Fox 5's Mike Allen was there for all of this. He joins us now with a recap. Mike.
Yeah, Joe, those protests definitely did not stop when CCEA teachers came inside. You just saw a man being escorted out of the room. He was not the only one. Here's a look at what it looked like inside CCSD's board meeting earlier this evening.
CCSD's on fire.
Security.
Zara is a liar.
Security.
CCSD's on fire.
A raucous start to Thursday night's CCSD board meeting. Right off the bat, teachers started chanting. The one who started this one was singled out by the board's president and was taken out in handcuffs despite pleas to the contrary from the crowd. Then another teacher was escorted out. And then another. After about 15 minutes, half the CCEA teachers in attendance actually walked out, but until that happened, no agenda items were able to be discussed. One of the angry teachers in attendance was Gerard Gomez, who told me he understands why those teachers left the meeting.
They got up and walked out, and they told the president of the board, "This is a joke. You don't really want to hear from us. You want to hear from this, from the superintendent, who is there to protect his administration."
This frustration stemming from the feeling that teachers don't get paid enough, which Gomez says is causing big crises among his peers.
I know there are 3 or 4 that are talking every day about, if we don't get our contract, I can't afford to continue being a teacher.
Now, I talked with dozens of CCSD teachers who are members of CCEA tonight, and I asked them what happens if we go into next week with still no new contract signed. Some of them say they don't know. Others brought up the idea of what's called a work action. That means they only work the hours that they're contracted to. That means no extracurriculars or sports before or after school. Reporting live tonight, Mike Allen, Fox 5 News, local Las Vegas.
Yeah, heated for sure. Mike, thank you. And CCSD released a statement after tonight's board meeting saying in part, quote, negotiations with the CCEA will only be resolved at the bargaining table, not by disrupting the business operations of the school district, as stated at Thursday's board meeting. Violating the law by disrupting a public meeting results in consequences. Now, on Saturday, the teachers union will vote on whether to accept CCSD's contract terms. Of course, Fox 5 will have full coverage of the union's decision.